Every single summer across the league, dozens of teams convince themselves they are one small spark away from greatness, but very few understand the razor-thin margin between a true contender and absolute disaster. Right now in Charlotte, two franchises carrying completely opposite kinds of pressure are colliding behind closed doors, and the ripple effects could define the entire trajectory of their seasons. This is not just another routine August workout on the calendar, it is a raw, high-stakes collision of expectations, redemption, and unspoken panic. If you love deep-dive football breakdowns that tell the real story behind the headlines, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to join the conversation. When you peel back the layers of this matchup, you realize how twisted football fate really is. We are watching two teams forever tied together by a single afternoon in the spring of 2023. Every single time these two squads cross paths, the ghost of that draft day hangs over the field like a thick cloud. One franchise thought they were taking the ultimate orchestrator, the steady hand, the point guard who could elevate an entire organization from day one. The other walked away with the gunslinger whose electric rookie magic immediately shattered every historical benchmark and took a dormant team straight into the postseason spotlight. Have you ever stopped to wonder how different the entire football universe would look right now if that one draft card had been turned in with a different name written on it? Because when you look at where things stand today, the narrative has taken some wildly unexpected turns. The rookie year felt like an open and shut case to every casual observer watching from home. One guy was making unbelievable throws under the brightest lights, stacking up playoff victories, while the other was running for his life behind a shattered protection unit, enduring brutal hits, and trying to salvage whatever confidence he had left. But the league has a ruthless way of leveling the playing field over time. That rookie perfection in Texas suddenly ran into the harsh reality of defensive tape, coaching adjustments, and devastating roster attrition. When you look at how last season unraveled down the stretch, especially that brutal postseason game where 4 costly turnovers broke the back of the offense, the entire perception shifted. People started looking under the hood and realizing that when the ground attack vanishes and the interior offensive line gets bulldozed by elite defensive tackles, even the most celebrated young passer can look mortal. You cannot ask any quarterback to operate when the run game is churning out a miserable 2 to 3 yards a pop and interior rushers are living in his lap. That reality check forced a massive, urgent overhaul in Houston. They went into the off-season with a Super Bowl or bust mandate from their coaching staff, completely tearing down and rebuilding their offensive philosophy. They went out and traded for a bruising, reliable back like David Montgomery to take the crushing weight off Woody Marks, ensuring they actually have the firepower to wear down opposing fronts. They completely remade their tight end room, bringing in veteran stability alongside exciting young talent, and they overhauled the offensive line with 5 new bodies across the tackles and guards. Yet, just as the blueprint looked ready for takeoff, heartbreak struck the wide receiver core. Losing a rising breakout target like Jaden Higgins to a torn anterior cruciate ligament right in the middle of training camp sent shockwaves through the entire building. He was supposed to be the versatile matchup nightmare entering year 2 of this system, the guy coaches were openly raving about every single afternoon. Now, they find themselves scrambling, bringing in Keyshawn Bout from New England to provide an immediate deep threat and inject instant life into a passing attack that already has Tank Dell fighting back from that gruesome winter leg injury. It puts an enormous amount of pressure right back on Nico Collins to carry the alpha load while defenders shade all their coverage his way. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field in North Carolina, the atmosphere is entirely about survival, steady growth, and desperate stability. The early days of training camp carried a tense, heavy vibe, but the foundation is finally beginning to show signs of life. You can feel the quiet desperation from an organization that has lived in the basement for far too long. They are not chasing Lombardi trophies this afternoon, they are chasing competence, identity, and the basic proof that their young quarterback can finally stand tall in the pocket without fearing for his safety. That brings us to the absolute centerpiece of this entire session, the one area where this team will either prove their progress or get completely exposed, the trenches. We know what this Carolina offense has when Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis are healthy and anchoring the interior. Those 2 massive guards were brought in for big money to change the physical DNA of the line. But football is played across 5 spots, and when you look at the exterior and the pivot, the question marks become glaring red flags. Seeing Rashid Walker on the blind side, Luke Fortner holding down the center spot, and the rookie first-rounder Monroe Freeling tasked with locking down the right side is nerve-wracking enough. But when you realize who is lined up directly across from them in individual drills and 11-on-11 work, your stomach drops. You are asking that group to survive against Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, and Sheldon Rankins. That is not just a standard pass rush, that is a certified wrecking crew designed to destroy timing and live in the backfield. If that young trio on the offensive line cannot hold their ground in one-on-ones, the entire practice falls apart. You cannot evaluate a passing scheme, you cannot establish a run game, and you certainly cannot build quarterback confidence if your tackles are getting walked back into the pocket on every single snap. Last week, we barely got to see the full starting 5 work together in live team drills. If they do not find cohesion against a front this terrifying, the panic button in Carolina is going to be pressed before the regular season even begins. Which brings us directly to the focal point of the franchise, Bryce Young. There is no escaping the microscope he is under. He does not need to go out there and deliver highlight reel circus throws against a closed-doors defense, but he has to prove that his floor has risen. We have seen the extreme peaks and the devastating valleys. We saw the late-season surges where he looked like the composed, elite processor he was drafted to be, but we have also seen the stagnant, lifeless starts to campaigns where the entire offense looked completely lost. Nobody wants to see 3-and-outs caused by missed protections, blown assignments, or sloppy miscommunications with depth wideouts. What this team desperately needs from him is consistency. Play above the line, deliver the ball on time, make the correct reads against complex disguised looks, and prove that the surrounding chaos cannot derail his processing. This brings us to our official question of the day, and I really want to hear from both fan bases down in the comments below. Looking at everything we know today, from roster construction to quarterback development, which team is actually in a better position to achieve their ultimate ceiling over the next 3 seasons? Drop your honest take in the comments right now. To make matters even more complicated for this passing game, the weapons around him are suddenly facing their own high-stakes audition. With Xavier Legette sidelined in a walking boot and Chris Brazzell out for the year with a torn knee ligament, a massive vacuum has opened up on the depth chart. Everyone thought this wide receiver room was solidified, but suddenly, the opportunity is wide open for someone to step into the spotlight. Jimmy Horn Jr. has been quietly climbing up the pecking order day by day, moving all the way from a third-team gadget option to taking meaningful reps with the first-team offense in the slot. He bulked up in the off-season to absorb the violent hits over the middle, and his pure run-after-catch explosiveness is turning heads in a way that simply cannot be ignored. While players like Bryson Germain offer the size and blocking ability coaches appreciate in the run game, they do not possess that dynamic game-breaking burst that forces defensive coordinators to stay up at night. If Legette continues to miss time or struggles to find his rhythm when the regular season begins, somebody has to step up alongside the boundary targets and become a dependable safety valve for this quarterback. Seeing how Jimmy Horn handles elite coverage against an aggressive defense could be the turning point of his young career. Then you flip the field and look at the defensive side of the ball, where the chess match gets just as intense. For Carolina, the standard of linebacker play has historically been legendary. When you walk through that building, the ghosts of Sam Mills, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and Dan Morgan define the culture. For years, that middle level was an impenetrable wall that punished opposing offenses on every single drive. But in recent seasons, injuries and inconsistency have eroded that identity, leaving a massive void in the heart of the defense. Now, Devin Lloyd steps into that middle linebacker spot wearing the green dot, carrying the heavy responsibility of restoring that dominant standard. But the test waiting for him and this coverage unit is massive. Last week, reports surfaced that tight ends completely carved up the middle of the field in red zone drills, surrendering multiple touchdowns in rapid succession. Going up against a rebuilt, highly athletic tight end group that loves to exploit mismatches across the second level is going to immediately show whether this coverage communication has actually been fixed. And right behind them, the secondary is preparing for a fascinating battle of depth. With young draft picks like Willie stepping up and fighting for starting reps on the perimeter, it unlocks the freedom to move a premier coverage talent like J.C. Horn all over the formation, including inside to the slot in a versatile superstar role. Watching him match up against a receiving core that is fighting through its own injury adversity, featuring Nico Collins, Keyshawn Bout, Jalen Noel, and Xavier Hutchinson, will be pure cinema. At the line of scrimmage, the battle between Carolina's interior defensive front and Houston's ground attack is going to be a war of attrition. Derrick Brown is an absolute superstar who demands double teams on nearly every single snap, but behind him, injuries and inconsistent play have left the defensive tackle rotation thin. If Houston truly wants to prove that their ground attack is ready to support a championship run, running into the teeth of this front will tell the entire story. When the dust settles on this practice, nobody is going to hand out trophies, and nobody is going to hoist a banner. But the answers found on this field will echo all the way into September. For one team, it is the ultimate stress test to see if their championship aspirations are built on solid ground or wishful thinking. For the other, it is a crucial reality check to see if their foundation is strong enough to finally climb out of the shadows. The tape from this morning will not lie, and the players who step up under the radar today are the very ones who will decide the fate of both franchises when the lights shine the brightest.